Howdy, folks. Today's Neutrino forecast is for Monday, the 11th of August, 2025. I made a mistake about that yesterday. I was just so excited to get to Monday, but no, that's today. And with this shift today, we move into the third version of the cross of explanation. Hey, that's my cross. But because it's a different version, a different gate takes precedence. Whereas in my gate, you can see, or my chart, you can see that 43 and 23 are at the top of the conscious side. And then we have 449 over here. What we're seeing right now is the top activation being the fourth gate. And that's the gate of youthful folly. Let's see. Yeah. It's right over here, this little one you see. There in my chart. Yes. And that should be, yeah, it's orange. Okay. Just in the camera, it didn't look orange. But that's it right there. So that's connected to 63. That's skepticism. And youthful folly is really about getting an idea about something. So you'll see children who have this kind of configuration in their charts, being in school, raising their hand, saying, I know, but when it comes time to it, sometimes they can't exactly do the explanation. And part of the problem with that is it's because explanation takes a lot of practice, a lot of work, and a lot of time to explain things over and over again in order to be able to get good at it. And so we have a lot of crosses of explanation running around the world who don't necessarily have the perfect support for having done that. Me, besides growing up in a cult where I always had to get up and speak, I have this 25-year period where I was raising children and constantly explaining. So by now, here I am, 52 or 3, something like that. I can't remember how old I am. But now my faculties of explanation have been tuned and honed and refined so that I do have that ability. But it's a good thing to know. If you know a child who has a cross of explanation, let them sit down and tell you what they think, what they know. Let them get, cut their teeth on you, because that's really what they need to be able to live their highest selves on this planet. It takes a lot of practice, even if you have the wiring, to learn how to explain things well. So that's my explanation to you on what it's like to be an explainer. And even in this third variation of the cross, it's still basically doing the same thing. We're having our cross be a combination of these ideas of being able to explain in the 23 the insights from the 43, and having this youthful folly, this I have a theory, I have an idea, it needs to be tested, but I have an answer for that. And then, of course, the gate of revolution, which is down here in orange, coming out of the emotion center. And that's all about, if it's not working, I'm out of here. We're fixing this. We're ending this. We're changing it. We're breaking it. It's the gate of divorce. When I found that out, I realized why it was that I knew in one moment when my marriage would end. I had, just a aside in case you're curious, I was in fully engaged in the cult, in the religion, in the mystery, in the whole thing. And I had read a book that in one night gave me a feminist awakening and a religious awakening. And I went downstairs and my husband said, I knew I shouldn't have let you read that book. And I was like, let me read that book? And my whole mind, my whole world just shifted in that moment. And in that moment, I knew I was getting divorced. And I just thought, oh, okay, that was just something weird about me. It's because that revolution is so high in me that I was like, yeah, I'm done. obviously you're not for me. Obviously you never cared about me if that's the only thing you could say about me when I come downstairs and say, I have so many questions now. He wasn't at all interested in the questions. So yeah, that relationship definitely had to end. And you will see these dynamics in any version of the cross of explanation, because the idea of theories about revolution are inextricably linked with this channel of being able to explain things. So all of us explainers, no matter which version is, being flipped around, there's 4 versions, one for each one of those 4 gates to be in the top position. So in one position here, then they'll switch, and then they'll switch like this, and that goes for every right angle. They switch like that and like that. So in all of those versions, you have, just a slightly different flavor. And in this 3rd version that we're entering right now, the top flavor is the flavor of theories. So these people are people with a lot of theories. They're not necessarily right theories, but they're theories that they think are right, and they want to explain them, get those explanations out. So examples of these people. Steve Martin and Alfred Hitchcock. And if you look at them, you can kind of see how explaining their theories was in various ways a very important part of their lives. As other examples, we have Halle Berry and Magic Johnson, and also Fidel Castro. So, interesting things to think about. These are some of our historically famous explorers in this exact version, and this is the 3rd version. I am the 4th. So the 3rd version is going to be much more focused, because it's in the 3rd quadrant, or the 3rd quarter, much more focused on explaining things about interpersonal relationships, whereas the 4th quarter is going to be more about explaining things that have to do with transformation and, growing up, finding the answers for the final version before we're getting ready to die and start a new life over again. So it puts us in the beginning of gate 4 and gate 49, with the 23 and the 43 as support underneath line 1. So let's get into it. For line 1 is folly, and the name of the gate is youthful folly. So this is our insight that there is some folly capable of happening inside of this energy. Understanding depends on the perfect timing. So there's a time for ideas to come into the world. Good to know. 49.1 is realism, which only supports viable principles. And this makes me think of our song today, which is Views by Noga Erek, Rayo, Cragun, and Rousseau. It's about buying views on YouTube. And as my YouTube channel has started to go off, and it's starting to grow, thank you, by the way, it's coming to my mind, this subject of how people sometimes cheat the algorithms. They buy views, they do things that are less than forthright and honorable having to do with it. And it's just like, okay, it's interesting, but it's based on theories, right? They may be unworkable or unsustainable theories, and that's really what the song is saying. It's not sustainable. It's not a viable principle. You're breaking the system if you're buying views. So I thought, oh, okay, gotcha. They're talking about viable principles and saying that this one isn't, and also recommending that it's some bullshit. You really shouldn't be doing that. It's a kind of folly, an imperfect idea. And so I thought, all right, that is a good song for today. Our moon, the reading starts off in 37.5. 37 is, of course, our gate of loyalty, friendship, community love, and that is happening here between the ego willpower center and the emotion center in this channel of community or negotiation. And it's on the emotional side, so 37 is down here. And 37.5 is love, natural devotion to the community. What a sweet kind of definition. I'm used to all the love gates having to do with the G center, and this isn't love in that way. It's love of the community, love of others, love of a group of people that this person, that a person with this activation would be really there to support. So that's nice. And when the moon is done with 37, it will be moving into 63. That's skepticism on the other side of this youthful folly I just mentioned. And then it will go into 22. That's one of those manifesting channels. And the 22nd gate is about moods and grace and understanding what's going on with talking and being a social being. And then when it's done with 22, it'll move into this other manifesting channel, which is about experience. And 36 is the gate of crisis and compassion. It's really the beginning of all felt experiences because, as I was saying last night to some human design friends, experience happens because of we have a longing from the root to have a new emotional experience, and then we have some sort of emotional crisis, and that leads us to the experience, and then when the experience is done, we can look back on it and talk about it. So that's how the electricity is supporting that kind of a thing. The chart is actually for today very, very stable. This is probably the least changing daily chart I've seen in the 8 months almost that I have been doing these transits for myself. So very, very interesting. Besides the moon, which of course shifts every day, so the moon is always going to be something new, we have Mercury, because it's in retrograde, still sitting at 31.3, which, in case you're curious again, that was selectivity, to enhance influence through selectivity. And 39.4 is staying at temperance, although over the course of the day it will shift to the 5th line, so I'll tell you what that is. And it is single-mindedness, the ability not to overcome, but to bypass obstacles, which, if it sounds familiar, it's because we were just having that energy. We still have that energy. That's our current Jupiter energy. So it will be blending up so that we have 2 versions of the exact same line in the exact same date. And it's about provocation. It's about looking at uncomfortable things and getting ready to face them and change them, inspiring ourselves to overcome them. So this is the time to be inspired to change. So if you're feeling it, do it. We have energetic support for that. And that's it. Those are all the changes. The global is completely stable. The Mars is still stable at 46.5. And in case you're curious, that was keeping pace in lockstep with success. So we don't have any connections being made just naturally within the transit itself. It's all about what connections the transit makes as it connects with the connections of your body. And, for the explanation scarf, the reason I chose this scarf is because the pattern of it really reminds me of my childhood, the kind of thing that my mother would have chosen for me, or that I might have chosen in younger years, something that seems to me to be reminiscent of the 80s. So I thought, well, okay, youthful folly, theories that may or may not have been correct back in those days, and so that's how we come around to this scarf. So to you, maybe it's just some colorful flowers. That's fine. I tell you my personal meaning. There it is. So until tomorrow's neutrino weather forecast, please take care of yourselves and look to heal yourselves with love by poking a little bit at those tender spots that where you know some growth needs to happen. That's really what's going on, especially in the energy of the global sphere. So take care of yourselves, be nice to yourselves, love yourselves, and love each other. Bye.